Okay, and I think we are. Please help me, God. We are. It's the last prelim. Jared Gordon going up against Danny Chavez. Oh, man, we got a weight miss from Jared Gordon. Another man missing weight by 5 pounds. And we had some serious heat at the face-off. Cody, I think you're up on this one.
Yeah, so Jared Gordon, long time, been my boy. I like betting on these guys that are going to go out there and they will absolutely give you 100% effort every time out. There's not an ounce of quit in them. They could be losing rounds, they could be fighting out of bad positions, but at least you know at the end of the night, win or lose, you're happy with the effort that they gave you. Jared Gordon is just a tough dude. I mean, we all know about his personal history, but beyond that, I mean, as far as his record in the octagon goes, if he's able to get you down, the guy is relentless. And whether or not the guy at Fight Metrics sitting on his computer says it's a significant strike or not, the dude is literally working the entire time. And so he makes a career out of that, right? He comes out in the Michel Canones fight. That's his debut. Takes him down 4 times, grinds away with the strikes. You see it in the Hawk Diaz fight. He takes him down. He grinds away in the strikes. If he's successful in taking you to the ground, he just beats you. But when he's forced to stand, if say you're able to get back up, if say he's not able to hold you down, if he has to strike for a prolonged period of time, he's getting hit and he's getting hurt, he's getting wobbled, he's getting put out. You see it first in the Joaquim Silva fight where he did take a lot of damage in that fight. It was the first time you started to see him slow down as well. But subsequently to that, like, they didn't give him a whole lot of favors in some of these bookings. And the Charles Oliveira fight is a great example. Like, he's been KO'd twice now in his career, bad knockouts. Looks like he's slowing down. You give him Charles Oliveira, gets knocked out. You know, his win over Dan Moret, he didn't look great. He actually did get outstruck in portions of that fight, but he relies on the takedowns. You see his last fight, same thing. Low-level opponent, relies on the takedowns. That's what's saving him. Against Danny Chavez, Chavez's takedown defense against TJ Brown looked great. I mean, his hips look super heavy, super strong. We all had capped that fight prior to it. Everybody I had spoken to had said the same thing. Like, well, he does show 2 pro losses. Both of his losses, his ground game let him down. But leading into that fight, he was super adamant of like, I've spent a lot of time working on my wrestling. I won't get taken down. I guarantee I won't get taken down. Now, mind you, he's guaranteeing he's not going to get taken down against a TJ Brown that was 7 for 7 in his fight with Jordan Griffin in the takedowns. His fight prior, he lost that fight. You know, this shit happens with TJ Brown. But all the same, it's like a guy that had shown good wrestling, you're guaranteeing TJ Brown never got close. People will say it was the leg kicks. TJ Brown waited too long to get going. His lead leg was hurt, and that enabled him to get the takedowns. But I think Chavez just looked strong. He looked tough. He looked like his takedown defense was in order. His leg kicks were good. He had fast hands. 2 things I didn't overly like is he got tired in the 3rd round, and his output was low. But he took that fight on short notice. So I'm going to give him just like ever so slightly the benefit of the doubt that full camp, better version. He is 33. He's not a prospect. For a guy that's 1-0 in the UFC, he's a little bit long in the tooth. But if he can keep this fight standing, then I think he's going to give Jared Gordon a ton of problems. Jared Gordon relies on those takedowns, as he always does. He looked very, very slow his last time out. I think at 32, he's just had a lot more damage than actual age itself, the number catching up to him. But as much as I do love Jared Gordon, I just couldn't back it. Now you say, okay, the weight miss. We factor that in. Guy comes in 5 pounds overweight. So whereas that is definitely an advantage for Jared Gordon's style, right? He's the wrestler. He didn't have a terrible weight cut. And Bleed, you made the best mention yourself. You missed by 0.5. You know something went wrong because you're not giving the guy 20%, 30% of your purse for a 0.5 miss. You're going to go make the weight. At 5 pounds out, you're just like, screw it, I'm starting to feel shitty. I'm just going to call it a day, and I'll give the guy 20%. It's like they're not the same misses. So with Jared Gordon, this should help him. Extra size. If he does get the fight to the ground, if he doesn't gas the same because of a bad weight cut, that's all advantage on Jared Gordon's thing. But I still get this bottom like gut feeling that's like Jared Gordon's body's like failing him. You see this as guys that are athletes at a high level for a long time, guys that have, put their body through some stress, which he in fact has. They've suffered knockout losses. They're training all the time. They're doing these diets. They're doing all this stuff. Is that your body just stops responding. And you did see him way noticeably slower in his last time out. It seemed like his body just wasn't reacting. To see him come and miss weight, I think it's all the same thing. His body probably started to shut down. His team and the doctors were like, you can't. They're in Vegas. On the island, it's probably your call. In Vegas, you're at the PI's Institute. So they're looking over you and running the analytics and being like, no, man, your body's shutting down. You can't. This is your cutoff limit, or we have to scrap the fight. so he's just agreeing to take it. That all doesn't bode well for a guy who's known for pushing a pace for 15 minutes, right? That his body's probably likely falling apart on him. Yeah, I just can't go with Jared Gordon. I got Danny Chavez. I could see him getting a knockout. I'd like to say decision, but beyond that, I'm not going to chase a certain prop. I would just take Danny Chavez straight up money line.
Absolutely. Guru, who you taking?
Yeah, I got Danny Chavez as well, and I just feel like on the feet he's going to have a big advantage, like Cody was saying. I mean, he looked like he is pretty slick. I mean, he's from MMA Masters, which is a gym that's been really on fire recently. They've been doing really good, and you saw in the fight with TJ Brown, he was switching stances. He was throwing real nice low calf kicks. He really damaged TJ Brown's leg with that, which I think he should try to do against Jared Gordon because it'll help him with the wrestling as well. And I feel like, he just is a sharp counter striker. But the thing about Jared Gordon is if he can get it to the ground, he's probably going to win the fight because it's really is hard to kind of pick this fight. Because to me, I don't know if you guys have been able to find other fights, but I only have been able to find a couple real limited amount of fights on Danny Chavez. I've never really seen him on his back, like getting controlled. I don't know how he is on the ground. I know he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So, I mean, that should bode well for him. And it does seem like he had good takedown defense against TJ Brown. So if he can keep it on the feet, I do think he's going to be, way faster, way more dynamic. I don't like that weight miss for Jared Gordon. I mean, I feel like he knew at 155, they did give him some really hard matchups. Like if he fought Diego Ferreira, Charles Oliveira, but he can't compete at 155. And now he's missing weight by 5 pounds for 45. So that could be a thing where it's like he could be in his head thinking like, where is his career going to go after this, even after a win, potentially? It is kind of a weird situation. So I do feel like Danny Chavez, he's also, like Cody said, coming in here with the full camp now. He's a little bit older, and I feel like he's one of these guys that's probably going to want to maximize, his chance in the UFC and try to run with it. So I think he's going to come in here with, 100%, try to have the best cardio he can have. And I think he's going to be able to deny enough takedowns, keep it on the feet, and he could get a knockout, but I think it'll probably be a decision win for Danny Chavez.
Right on. Lock of the night. Let him know.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the Gordon side here. And I kind of echo Guru's thing in terms of the limited amount of tape on Chavez makes it a little bit more difficult to see how he deals with guys that want to, engage in the grappling with him. But the one of the fights I was able to find was that Anderson Hutchinson fight, which clearly, if anybody watched that fight, round 2 and round 3 is a Hutchinson round, yet he gets robbed, and that fight goes to Danny Chavez. He easily wins that first round, but you see the grappling a little bit in that fight and how he deals with it when he's the one being pushed backwards. Even in the TJ Brown fight, right? He has a great first round. And this is the statistic I want to kind of point out. He lands 12 leg kicks or calf kicks specifically in that first round. Rounds 2 and 3, he only goes 3 and 3 in those rounds. Cardio issues probably, but also TJ Brown saying, fuck it, let me move forward and see what happens in this in that aspect. And he's a little bit more successful. Obviously, he's more of a compromised fighter at that point in time as his legs have just been kicked off in that first 5 minutes. But if you're talking about a guy in Jared Gordon whose style is to just continuously move forward, really push the pressure, try to get the fight to the ground, I think we see him more successful more often than not. If you guys remember his fight against Michelle Canones, that's a fight that was at 145 pounds, and he missed weight for that fight too, but was still able to go complete 4 takedowns in that fight. He was still able to rack up 115 total strikes in 9 minutes of fighting, and then obviously finished him at the end of that round. He still has it. He's shown in the past that he can still go even if he's missing weight. Again, these guys talked about it. If they're missing weight by 5 pounds, more than likely he still is. He's probably not draining himself to make it to 145, 146, 147. He comes in at 150, and even at the weigh-ins and the stare down, like he looks full. He looks healthy. Like he doesn't look like he's been sucking himself out. You don't see the zombie eyes or anything like that. I feel like he still has that gear to kick it in and put it on this guy right from the get-go. And that's the thing. He needs to go right away. He can't get or let Danny Chavez get settled in this fight. That's where he's able to get his kicks off. That's where he's able to get the rest of his game off. Now, we can give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of his cardio issues in that TJ Brown fight, as he took that fight on roughly 12 days' notice. So let's throw that out the window. But when you mix in that Jared Gordon pace, pressure, and style in that wrestling, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Danny Chavez to truly get comfortable in the striking range. The last fight also that Danny Chavez has lost, and it was a while ago, was from a guy who was at Sanford MMA as well too. So maybe they have a little bit of familiarity with this guy to be like, okay, this is how you approach it, and this is how you beat him. I'm not sure exactly at what point that Danny Chavez is like, let's start going for the calf kicks, because you don't see it earlier in his fights, or at least earlier in his career. So maybe it's once he joined MMA Masters where, guys like Miguel Baeza have been using it to its fullest extent. But I still think that it's going to come down to Gordon pushing this fight forward, making sure that he gets in the face of Danny Chavez. Don't let him get comfortable. Don't let those calf kicks get off. Push him up against the cage. Even if you don't get, or if you aren't successful on the takedowns, the first couple ones, just push him up against the cage. Drain him. You have that cardio. You didn't drain yourself trying to make 145. He probably still has the cardio there to go out there and put the pace on this guy. And even if he's successful in Jared Gordoning this guy in the first 10 minutes, round 3 is probably going to be a lot slower paced, Danny Chavez. And the striking at distance is a little bit of a worry for Jared Gordon. But, losing to guys like Joaquin Silva, Charles Oliveira, and Diego Ferreira are, definitely top-notch guys. And one thing I want to bring up about that Joaquin Silva fight, absolutely dog shit fight IQ in that third round, with these guys just absolutely slinging leather in the middle of the cage and trying to have like a dick swinging contest to see who can knock the other guy out. And unfortunately for Jared Gordon, he's the one sleeping in that fight. So hopefully he doesn't go into this fight with the similar type of mentality where he's like, I'm just going to trade with this guy, because clearly he slowed down at that point in time, and clearly he was more susceptible to getting hit with that knockout punch, and that's what happened in that fight. So this time around, add a little bit of that extra fire from the weigh-ins. Both these guys talking shit. Danny Chavez calling him a fat fuck, even though he's still shredded at 150 pounds. It's hilarious. I think Jared Gordon really wants to put on a performance here. And again, this is his second fight now at Sanford MMA. Hopefully he shores up some of his issues in the striking realm, and is able to mix it together well enough to get those takedowns and really control this fight, right? His last couple fights, 215 total strikes. The fight before that, 170 strikes. Like, the guy is a machine when it comes to getting these takedowns and getting that output. And I think that people might be riding a little bit too far with Chavez just based off of that TJ Brown fight. Even before on the regional scene, he's getting first round knockouts. Maybe he knocks out Jared Gordon early here, but based on what we have to go off of historically, I feel like Jared Gordon can push this guy, take him down, and make it a very tough fight. So I'll take the dog money on Gordon here, maybe even take the decision prop plus 180. Not too bad of a line there, but I got the Jared Gordon side here.
I think we know the game plan for Jared Gordon. I'm pretty sure he let everybody know at face-offs exactly how this fight was going to go down in his mind. I think it's up for debate what he said he's actually going to do once the fight gets there, though. And I'm not going to repeat those words because it was very graphic. But Jared Gordon told Chavez, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hold you down. Where it goes from there, I really don't know. But that is Gordon's path to victory here, absolutely. I don't like his chance if he tries to stand and bang with Chavez. Cody, you talked about Chavez saying he shored up the takedown defense. I tend to believe him. I really do. I think Gordon probably finds a takedown or two maybe early in this fight. But, man, I just feel like Chavez, even if he does get taken down, I think he's going to be able to work to his feet. And I just absolutely think he's going to outclass Jared Gordon on the feet. We talked about the leg kicks. I think those are definitely going to be part of the factor here. But all in all, man, this just feels to me like two guys that are on different career trajectories. Now, interestingly enough, Chavez is actually the older man by 1 year. But, when you take account into mileage, strength of competition, stuff like that. I mean, Jared Gordon's the guy with 4 losses, all 4 by finish, I think Chavez is going to go in here and put some work on this guy. I like Chavez a lot in this spot. And Locke, like you said, man, we've only seen this guy come in here and have one fight, albeit on short notice, man, and I was highly impressed. But Chavez is the guy for me. I'm going to back him in this one. I got Chavez. I think he's got a very good chance at finishing Jared Gordon. If he doesn't, I just think he's going to be the one to get his game off over Jared Gordon, being able to hold him down over 3 rounds.